For today's cup of coffee,
she's gonna be candling my ears.
No, I'm not. That's a separate video on the candling of the ears. And I thought this, every time I think it's going to be something simple, it's never simple. But this was not a matter of it being complex, but that there was a vast amount of really cool information. So this is going to be a two-parter, but it's worth it. It is truly, truly worth it. It's not Game of Thrones type stuff or anything like that. So we've got Kat that's just walked over my laptop and God knows what he's done.
He's opened the web code.
Yeah, let's don't. And before we get started, we are going to be talking about vampires.
Yeah, we are. Here comes the boy.
So it's a matter
Hello,
boy. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what we're going to say. Apotropaic.
Apotropaic.
And Wallachia.
Wallachia.
See, I actually can't pronounce these things, just not when I need to. So,
the cat's
anyhow,
wandering over the electronics.
The Wikipedia article on vampires is amazing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm going to be using for the next cups of coffee.
And there's a lot. This is going to be a multi-parter again.
It's going to be probably a two-parter because I don't know that I'm going to go other than a brief mention of vampires in other cultures. It's going to be focused more on European and different things like that. The ones that we are more familiar with. Because when you go into all the different cultures, every culture basically has the myth of a vampire.
Right.
And so a lot of these things, people can go and read for themselves. But I was just extremely excited about this when I copy-pasted it, because I do that sometimes, and then I can sort of take what I need from what I've got. And at 11-point font, 1.5 spaced, it was 22 pages. So I got it down to 19, but we're not going to do that many tonight. We're just going to, focus on the, how the myth originated.
How many pages is there for just this video?
Not that many. So anyhow, a vampire is a creature from folklore that subsists by feeding on the vital essence, generally in the form of blood, of the living. And that's one of the things, they didn't go into the psychic vampires at this point. That's the reason that they made the distinguishment between blood and other forms.
The blood drinking vampires.
And there you go again, already.
What?
In European folklore, vampires are undead creatures that often visit loved ones and cause mischief or deaths in the neighborhoods they inhabited while they were alive. So it was not a matter of them just random strangers. They wore shrouds and were often described as bloated and of ruddy or dark countenance, which is markedly different from today's gaunt, pale vampire, which dates from the early 19th century.
Okay.
Vampiric entities have been recorded in most cultures, and the term vampire was popularized in Western Europe after reports of an 18th century mass hysteria of a pre-existing folk belief in the Balkans and Eastern Europe that in some cases resulted in corpses being staked and people being accused of vampirism. Now, that's what we'll wait until tomorrow as far as this, the mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Because that's worthy of, more than I've got tonight. We're trying not to.
I got too.
We try to limit. We really do try to limit the amount of time that we take with these things. All right. In modern times, the vampire is generally held to be a fictitious entity. I like that. Generally held.
Yeah.
Although
there are some people that believe that they are actually real.
Absolutely. Although belief in similar vampiric creatures such as the chupacabra still persists in some cultures.
La chupacabra, la chupacabra.
Early folk belief in vampires has sometimes been ascribed to the ignorance of the body's process of decomposition after death and how people in pre-industrial societies tried to rationalize this, creating the figure of the vampire to explain the mysteries of death. Now, there was that word.
Hold on.
I just had it. It's it's porphyria. Was linked with legends of vampirism in 1985 and received much media exposure, but has since been largely discredited. And what that is, as far as a genetic malformity, if you want to call it that, where people craved blood because of the hemoglobin being low. Mm-hmm. And that's been pretty much disproven.
Right.
But we'll get into that tomorrow, too. And the charismatic and sophisticated vampire of modern fiction was born in 1819 with the publication of The Vampire by the English writer John Polidori. And this story was highly successful and arguably the most influential vampire work of the 19th century. Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula was remembered as the quintessential vampire novel and provided the basis of the modern vampire legend, even though it was published after fellow Irish author Joseph Sheridan. That's his 1872 novel Carmilla. I was familiar with that one. So, Stoker, he gets all the credit. But no, he was actually late for the game, which is kind of sad, but that's where Hollywood... now, Carmilla, I have actually read that one, and it's not bad. It's a hell of a lot better than Dracula. I'll have to go back and try to look for that one as far as the vampire. The success of the book spawned a distinctive vampire genre, still popular in the 21st century with books, films, television shows, and video games. The vampire has since become a dominant figure in the horror genre. Now, what was that? There was a lady vampire that was featured in a recent video game.
Oh, Lady Dimitrescu.
Yes.
Lady Dimitrescu.
And so that became a very popular figure.
Yeah, Resident Evil Village, and she's like 9 feet tall. Literally she stands 9 feet tall, and she's gorgeous.
Well, and it was, because there is an allure about a vampire, but, anyhow.
It's sad that she's in the game for, the first, part of it, and, she's the first boss that you fight, which is very, very upset, but...
I would say that more than likely, because of the popularity of that character, that she will be featured in future games and may have a game of her own.
I highly doubt that, but we can have hopes.
Well... because it was very popular.
Yeah.
All right. The notion of vampirism has existed for millennia. Cultures such as Mesopotamia, the Hebrews, ancient Greeks, Romans had tales of demons and spirits, which are considered precursors to modern vampires. Despite the occurrence of vampiric creatures in these early civilizations, the folklore of the entity known today as the vampire originates almost exclusively from early 18th century southeastern Europe, when verbal traditions of many ethnic groups of the region were recorded and published. In most cases, vampires are revenants of evil beings, suicide victims, or witches, but they can also be created by a malevolent spirit possessing a corpse or by being bitten by a vampire. Belief in such legends becomes so pervasive that in some areas it caused mass hysteria and even public executions of people believed to be vampires. So I thought that was pretty interesting about, evil spirits possessing a corpse.
That's really interesting.
Because we think about as far as
living.
But... Right. And so that gives us another understanding, as far as a corpse being reanimated by that. That's cool. I haven't pondered that before, so I will have to ponder that deeply.
Yeah.
It's difficult to make a single definitive description of the folkloric vampire, though there are several elements common to many European legends. Vampires were usually reported as bloated in appearance, ruddy, purplish, or dark in color, which, that goes along a lot with the decomposition process.
Oh, absolutely it does.
And these characteristics...
He's bloated.
Really?
He's just a little pudgy. He's fine.
These characteristics were often attributed to the recent drinking of blood. Blood was often seen seeping from the mouth and nose when one was seen in its shroud or coffin. And its left eye was often open. Now, why would it be the left eye?
That doesn't make any sense.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So I guess if the right eye was open, it wasn't a vampire. I don't know.
But who knows? What if they're missing an eye?
Yeah, really, that would be freaky. All right, it would be clad in the linen shroud it was buried in, and its teeth, hair, and nails may have grown somewhat, though in general fangs were not a feature. Although vampires were generally described as undead, some folk tales spoke of them as being living beings.
I never. Huh.
It's just a different form of life.
Yeah.
So that's, well, I mean, if you go back to the fairy folk and the different gnomes and the dwarves and all these other legends, I can see very easily how they would think that it would be a different form of being.
Oh, absolutely.
And we don't know that it's not.
That's true.
That's always a possibility. But as far as not understanding the decomposition, and we'll go further into that tomorrow. Now, the ways that vampires could be created... This was really cool. The causes of vampiric generation were many and varied in original folklore. In the Slavic and Chinese traditions, any corpse that was jumped over by an animal, particularly a dog or a cat, was feared to become one of the undead.
Huh.
A body with
That's
a wound that had not been treated with boiling water was also at risk.
Yes, that skull. There's nothing like the smell of boiled flesh.
You really...
Disgusting. You nasties.
In Russian folklore, vampires were said to have once been witches or people who had rebelled against the Russian Orthodox Church while they were alive. So that makes you wonder, even as us talking about Vlad Tepes, because he very much belonged to the Orthodox Church. Did they consider what he did? I don't know that they considered it rebellion against the church.
No.
So that's most interesting. Cultural practices often arose that were intended to prevent a recently deceased loved one from turning into an undead. Burying a corpse upside down was widespread, as was placing earthly objects such as scythes or sickles near the grave to satisfy any demons entering the body or to appease the dead so that it would not wish to arise from its coffin. This method resembles the ancient Greek practice of placing an obelisk in the person's mouth to pay the toll to cross the river Styx in the underworld. It has been argued that instead the coin was intended to ward off any evil spirits from entering the body, and this may have influenced later vampire folklore. This tradition persisted in modern Greek folklore, in which a wax cross and a piece of pottery with the inscription, Jesus Christ Conquers, were placed on the corpse to prevent the body from becoming a vampire. Other methods commonly practiced in Europe included severing the tendons at the knees or placing poppy seeds, millet, or sand on the ground at the gravesite of a presumed vampire. This was intended to keep the vampire occupied all night by counting the fallen grains. Now, that one I was very much familiar with.
Yeah.
Indicating an association of vampires with arithmomania. There you go, arithmomania. That's abnormal need to count things. Similar Chinese narratives stated that if a vampiric being came across a sack of rice, it would have to count every grain. This is a theme encountered in myths from the Indian subcontinent, as well as in South American tales of witches and other sorts of evil or mischievous spirits or beings. I wonder if grains of salt, they would have to count those, or if it has to be larger.
I don't know. I would assume that it would have to be larger because it's kind of impossible to count grains of salt almost.
So I guess everybody needs to go around with a handful of mustard seed. Well, think about it. I mean, yeah, they would have to count that too. Now, that's pretty cool on that. I had heard that one.
Yeah.
Now, as far as identifying vampires, many rituals were used to identify a vampire. One method of finding a vampire's grave involved leading a virgin boy through a graveyard or church grounds on a virgin stallion. The horse would supposedly balk at the grave in question. Generally, a black horse was required, although in Albania it should be white. Holes appearing in the earth over a grave were taken as a sign of vampirism. Or groundhogs.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Groundhogs, moles, whatever.
Yeah. Corpses thought to be vampires were generally described as having a healthier appearance than expected, plump, and showing little or no signs of decomposition. In some cases, when suspected graves were opened, villagers even described the corpse as having fresh blood from a victim all over its face. Evidence that a vampire was active in a given locality included death of cattle, sheep, relatives, or neighbors. Folkloric vampires also could make their presence felt by engaging in minor poltergeist-styled activities such as hurling stones on roofs or moving household objects and pressing on people in their sleep. So, maybe it's not Bigfoot pelting somebody with rocks. Maybe it'd be vampires.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's stink bugs slamming against the ceiling.
Now, as far as protection from vampires, everybody's heard about garlic.
Of course.
And Bibles. And crucifixes, rosaries, holy water, and mirrors. And those have all been seen in various folkloric traditions.
Actually, mirrors now would not work because guess what? They're no longer backed with silver.
That was what somebody else was saying the other day.
They're no longer backed with silver, and so they have lost their power.
Well, that's
and that
probably
means
true.
You can also see their reflection as well.
Now, this word that I was able to pronounce, what was it again? Apotropaics. I think that's right.
Apotropaics, yeah.
I got it. Yay. Apotropaics. These are items able to ward off evil spirits. And they're common in vampire folklore. Garlic is a common example. A branch of wild rose and hawthorn are said to harm vampires. And in Europe, sprinkling mustard seeds, see, there you go, on the roof of a house was said to keep them away. Other
Apotropaics.
Yes. Other methods of preventing the vampires include sacred items.
Speak English, ass monkeys.
That's Latin. It's not English.
Latin, ass monkeys.
Yeah, that's what Dr. Morris tried to tell me when I was taking Latin. For example, a crucifix, rosary, or holy water. Vampires are said to be unable to walk on consecrated ground, such as that of churches or temples, or cross running water. Now, you can also have the land of your home and your home itself consecrated.
What does that mean?
That means that it's dedicated to God, that it is holy space.
Oh, why not just say blessed?
It's different. Blessed is different than consecrated.
Okay.
It is. All right. Now, although not regarded traditionally as to ward it off, mirrors have been used to ward off vampires when placed facing outwards on a door. And in some cultures, vampires do not have a reflection and sometimes do not cast a shadow, perhaps as a manifestation of the vampire's lack of a soul. This attribute is not universal, but was used in Bram Stoker in the Dracula and has remained popular with subsequent authors and filmmakers. So we can understand that the person's supposedly standing there because they have no soul.
Right.
Which makes us, do gingers have a reflection?
The only reason that even started was because of South Park.
It is, and it's like I have my favorite cousin is a ginger, and she's the most beautiful hair. She always has.
She's just a sweet,
she's a doll baby.
person.
Yeah, she really is. So gingers, do not take offense because we are joking, and we actually appreciate the beautiful color of your hair.
My brother's technically part ginger.
Just his beard, which is weird that he's got coal black hair and then auburn beard. Of course, he's an odd character himself.
Hi, Elijah.
It's oldest kid. Some traditions also hold that a vampire cannot enter a house unless invited by the owner, but after the first invitation, then they can come and go as they please. That's interesting. And though folkloric vampires were believed to be more active at night, they were not generally considered vulnerable to sunlight. So that's a Hollywood thing, and Hollywood lies. What was you going to say about the...
Well, I was going to say, like, the legend didn't start, as far as them being harmed by the sun, it didn't come around until literally Hollywood started making films about them.
Right.
And so...
And as far as be careful who you let in your house.
Yeah, but always, if you want to be able to tell, don't have a modern mirror. Like, place a antique mirror right near your door that you enter from, or have anyone enter from, just to see if they have a reflection, because those mirrors, they're silver backed, and those mirrors went out of style in the 1940s.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're no longer...
So get you an old mirror and have it handy in case somebody says that they're raising funds for the local high school and can they come in for a drink of water. The answer is no. You stand right here on the porch. I'll go get you a bottle of water.
Yeah.
All right, methods of destruction. Everybody needs to know this. I'm giving people, tools for their tool belt here. The 9th century runestone from a Danish island had an inscription of a grave binding that was used to keep the deceased in its grave. I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought that was pretty cool too.
And methods of destroying suspected vampires varied, and it says staking was most commonly cited in South Slavic cultures. Ash was the preferred wood in Russia and Baltic states, or hawthorn in Serbia. And there was a record of oak being used in another place. Aspen has also been used for stakes, as it's believed that Christ's cross was made from aspen, and aspen branches on the graves of purported vampires were also believed to prevent their risings at night. Now, potential vampires were most often staked through the heart, though the mouth was targeted in Russia and northern Germany, and the vampire in northeastern Serbia. Piercing the skin of the chest was a way of deflating the bloated vampire.
Poke him with a stick.
Absolutely, poke him with a sharpened stick. Now I want to
get like one of those toothpicks and just poke it. See
absolutely. Now within that, who is going to pierce the skin? How is the skin going to be pierced? How close to this corpse is the person piercing the skin?
Yeah.
These are things that I have questions about. So, and it's like, is it going to deflate or is it going to explode? Did you ever hear about the exploding whale?
No.
That's for another cup. Okay,
I mean, I've heard it's like rat corpse, or not rat corpses, but small rodent corpses where cats just leave them.
Yeah, and they explode.
Mm-hmm.
And anyhow, the deflating of the bloated vampire, this is similar to a practice of anti-vampire burial, which includes burying sharp objects such as the sickles with the corpse so that they may penetrate the skin if the body bloats sufficiently while transforming into this vampire.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Now, decapitation was the preferred method in German and Western Slavic areas, with the head buried between the feet or behind the buttocks, away from the body. So, being buried with your head up your ass. There are a lot of people that live with their head up their ass.
Still lived. What prevented it from just reaching down and moving it up?
I don't know. There are questions that I have about many of these things. Anyhow,
you got your head so far up your ass you can't tell you're full of shit.
Absolutely. Now, this act of, decapitation was seen as a way of hastening the departure of the soul, which in some cultures was said to linger in the corpse. The vampire's head, body, or clothes could also be spiked and pinned to the earth to prevent rising. An 800-year-old skeleton found in Bulgaria was stabbed through the chest with an iron rod. Well, this was common.
Yeah.
You know, during that time, what you doing? I'm driving a stake through Grandma. The Romani people drove steel or iron needles into a corpse's heart and placed bits of steel in its mouth over the ears, eyes, and between the fingers at the time of burial. They also placed hawthorn in the corpse's sock or drove a hawthorn stake through the legs. In a 16th century burial near Venice, a brick forced into the mouth of a female corpse has been interpreted as a vampire slaying ritual by the archaeologist who discovered it in 2006. In Bulgaria, over 100 skeletons with metal objects such as plow bits embedded in the torso have also been discovered. Oof. Further measures included pouring boiling water over the grave to complete incineration of the body. In the Balkans, a vampire could also be killed by being shot or drowned, by repeating the funeral service, by sprinkling holy water on the body, or by exorcism. I'd say that'd be the easiest exorcism when somebody's already dead.
Yeah, of course that would be. It's a corpse.
In Romania, garlic could be placed in the mouth, and as recently as the 19th century, the precaution of shooting a bullet through the coffin was taken. For resistant cases, the body was dismembered and the pieces burned, mixed with water, and administered to family members as a cure. I have heard of that before.
I have not.
I had. And in Saxon regions of Germany, a lemon was placed in the mouth of suspected vampires.
Where do you get a lemon?
That's where I wondered. I mean, I guess that there was trade routes and stuff, and it doesn't say exactly when that was going on, but I would say that lemons were pretty rare back, in certain parts of Germany.
Of course, we don't live in Germany, so we don't know what grows there and what doesn't.
But it's a coldish, that's tropical things. Germany is not tropical.
There's different kinds of lemons?
Well, anyhow, so that was part one of the vampire thing. This is such a good... It's a good subject. And it was written well.
If you're confused why we have Salem's Lot right there, it's because it involves vampires. It goes into...
Oh, if you've never seen Salem's Lot, please find it and watch it.
It's a good movie.
It was actually a 2-part made-for-TV movie that was either late 70s, early 80s, and is still amazing. It was written by Stephen King.
Of course it was.
And it's sitting on Interview with a Vampire.
I haven't read the book, but I've watched the movie.
Oh, I refuse to watch the movie. I absolutely refuse. Tom Cruise, and what was the other dip's name?
I don't remember, but it actually wasn't a bad movie.
I don't care. No, because when you read a book, you become part of the book. The book becomes part of you, and I sure as hell did not want Tom Cruise in there as,
Why didn't
any of them.
Where were you when Harry Potter became movies?
Now, that one actually worked with it. That kid that played Harry Potter worked well with it.
There were a lot of things that were left out of the movies that were kind of crucial.
Well, and the same thing, with, like I said, with Interview with the Vampire. I read that back when I was in high school. Mm. And it was just such an amazing thing. And to watch somebody's version of it, you just moved the whole tripod thing. No. I can't remember who else was in there with Tom Cruise. I'm not a Tom Cruise fan anyhow.
He's crazy.
He's crazy.
He's in Scientology, which is a whole...
Well...
That's a whole shit show in of itself.
Whole
Y'all are in a cult too, Scientologists.
But no, I did not want him to... It was Louis and Lestat, and then you had, as far as the character of Claudia, which was pure evil.
The Living Dead dolls.
Yeah.
I had vampire Living Dead dolls. I could have brought them in.
It's all right. We'll save that one for tomorrow.
Oh, the Orchid. She could have been perfect for Claudia.
We'll have that for tomorrow then.
Okay.
We have vampire memorabilia because that was my genre.
I have a huge collection of Living Dead dolls.
Well, but y'all was more like zombie type thing.
I had an array of stuff.
Well, that's true, but
Yeah, there was demons, ghosts,
yes,
vampires, scarecrows,
goth mama, goth kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If any of y'all have living dead dolls that you want to donate to me, please do, because I want more.
Well, you can't have them all.
Yes, I sure as hell can.
Job.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, like I said, tomorrow we will keep talking about the legend and, expand on it, even as far as some of the different. He's encroaching on everything, and it's like it's freaking me out, and I can't remember what I'm trying to say. As far as some of the possible causes of vampirism, or what they think some of the causes could have been, including an interesting theory by was he physics or whatever kind of mathematician?
Oh God, that dude!
It was hilarious.
He's like, it's a mathematical.
No! Wait till tomorrow.
Mathematically impossible.
Never tell this child a secret, because you will not even blink before it is everywhere.
That's if it's a secret that absolutely needs to be told.
This is a secret. This is a surprise.
That absolutely needs to be kept a secret.
It's a surprise. It's another surprise. So we have those things looking forward to, because there was such a wealth of well-written information on this. And whoever wrote this on Wikipedia, I applaud you, because this is one of the best ones that I have read so far. And I've read a lot of them. So, anyhow...
The only book I have read recently was How I Got My Shrunken Head from Goosebumps. That's the only book I have read recently.
We have probably a small library here in the house.
Do I look like I'm the type of person to read?
Learn to be one of those people that read.
Do I look like I'm
Well, you can increase your knowledge on a variety of things.
I could.
Yeah.
The thing is, I actually do. I like to read. It's just hard for me to focus sometimes.
That's a problem with the ADHD. And if not, there's Audible books.
Yeah, I like audiobooks a lot better.
Yeah, those are cool.
But a lot of the audiobooks that I want to listen to, I can't find. So.
Always an excuse.
No, seriously.
Always an excuse. Anyhow, we will share more wonderful knowledge about vampires tomorrow. But this cup was full as it was. And if you've had experiences with paranormal, supernatural, encounters with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, vampires, if you've got local, family, regional myths, legends, any of those things, oddities, email us at cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Send us spooky stories.
Oh, yeah, spooky stories are great. That's what we do.
Send us topics that you honestly want us to talk about. Cause
I find topics that interest me.
Give us suggestions, please.
Because there's always so many things out there.
Yes, but we can't find everything ourselves.
We can't. But that's all right. Wait till we go. This is for later on about Toxoplasma gondii and is it or is it not conscious? Yeah.
It's a microorganism.
Yes, but it goes specifically after the dopamine receptors. But before we get into that, that's for another cup.
I mean, they're alive if that's the...
That's for another cup. Anyhow, you all have a beautiful, blessed day. And we will see you all on the next cup. Know that you're very loved. And we appreciate anybody who takes the time to share some coffee with us. And so...
I drink my coffee cowboy style. She drinks hers black.
Absolutely. Dark roast.
I'm sorry.
Black.
I need cream and sugar in mine.
No. I actually love coffee. So we'll see you folks. Bye.
Subscribe.